Welcome in beautiful Seoul. Across the great continent of Europe, ancient rivers like the Elbe and the Rhine have long served as the lifeblood for civilizations. They have carried ships, nourished fields, and witnessed the rise and fall of empires. But in times of severe drought, when the water levels fall dramatically, these rivers reveal a secret from their depths. Submerged for decades or sometimes even centuries, large boulders emerge from the muddy riverbeds, their surfaces covered in carvings. These are not mere rocks, they are historical records known as hunger stones. They carry stark messages from the past, etched by people who lived through unimaginable hardship and wanted to leave a warning for generations yet to come. These hunger stones, or as they are known in German, are a unique and rather haunting form of historical marker. They were created to document periods of extreme drought when the rivers ran so low that these specific stones became visible. Their purpose was simple and direct, to warn people that difficult times were ahead. When the stones could be seen, it meant that the river was too shallow for boats to navigate, disrupting trade and cutting off supplies. More ominously, it signalled a lack of water for crops, which would inevitably lead to failed harvests, widespread famine, and immense suffering for the local populations who depended so heavily on the river's bounty. You can find these stones primarily in the rivers of Central Europe, especially along the Elbe River, which flows through the Czech Republic and Germany. Others have been discovered in the Rhine, Moselle and Weser rivers. They are not ornate monuments, but rather naturally occurring boulders that were chosen for their position in the river. Over centuries, people carved the years of various droughts onto their surfaces, often adding grim messages or their own initials. These markings serve as a chilling timeline of desperation, a chronicle of every time the river shrank and hunger loomed large over the land, reminding us of the fragility of human existence. The messages themselves are incredibly poignant, written in local languages like German or Czech, not, as some have mistakenly wondered, in ancient tongues from other continents like Ayurvedic scripts from India. The inscriptions are direct communications from our ancestors. One of the most famous stones carries a message that needs no complex translation to convey its chilling meaning. It simply states the years of past droughts, and offers a simple, heartbreaking piece of advice to anyone who sees it exposed again. These messages were not meant to be poetic. They were raw, desperate warnings born from experience, a plea across time to brace for the coming hardship. The most renowned of all hunger stones rests in the bed of the Elbe River, near the town of Děčín in the Czech Republic. It is a massive testament to suffering, bearing the carved dates of more than a dozen droughts stretching all the way back to the 15th century. Its oldest readable inscription is from 1616, and the message associated with it has become infamous throughout Europe. Written in German, it translates to a deeply unsettling phrase, "Wenn du mich siehst, dann wein. If you see me, then weep." This single sentence encapsulates the terror that the sight of this stone would have inspired in people who knew precisely what it foretold: crop failure, starvation, and a desperate fight for survival. This Děčín stone is a hydrological and historical marvel. It documents droughts from centuries ago, with years like 1417, 1616, 1707, 1746, and numerous others from the 18th and 19th centuries meticulously carved into its surface. Before the advent of modern scientific instruments and systematic water-level recording, these stones were the only reliable gauges of extreme weather events. They provided a tangible physical record that the community could see and understand. Each new date added was another chapter in a long story of climatic struggle, a confirmation that the cycle of drought and famine had returned once more to plague the lives of the people living along the riverbanks. Not all messages were quite so grim, though the underlying theme of hardship was always present. Another stone found in the Spree River in Germany references a major drought that occurred in 1417, illustrating just how far back these warnings go. Some inscriptions focused more on the practical consequences, noting the high price of bread or the lack of food. Yet there is a glimmer of hope on a stone found near Blekede, Germany, which carries a more optimistic message. It reads, "When this stone submerges, life becomes more cheerful again, reminding us that the people who carved it also longed for the return of the rains and the restoration of the river's life-giving flow." The physical act of carving these stones must have been a sombre ritual. Imagine a community already weakened by hunger and fear, gathering at the river's edge to chisel another year onto the stone. It was an acknowledgement of their suffering and a deliberate effort to communicate with the future. They were not just marking a low water level, they were documenting their own history of hardship, ensuring that their struggle would not be forgotten. They were creating a permanent warning, a silent sentinel in the riverbed, waiting to deliver its grave message whenever the waters receded and the threat of famine returned to the land. For much of the 20th century, many of these hunger stones remained submerged, becoming little more than local folklore. However, in recent decades, they have been appearing with alarming frequency. The severe European droughts of 2003, 2015, 2018, and most recently in 2022 have caused river levels to plummet to historic lows, revealing these ancient warnings once again. The reappearance of the stones is no longer just a historical curiosity. It is now seen as a stark and visible indicator of a much larger modern problem. The warnings of the past are now intersecting with the realities of our present, serving a purpose their creators could never have imagined. The connection to climate change is impossible to ignore. Scientists and climate experts point to these increasingly frequent and intense droughts as a direct consequence of our warming planet. The European Drought Observatory reported in the summer of 2022 that nearly half of the continent was under drought warning conditions. What was once an exceptional event, occurring perhaps once in a generation or even a century, is now becoming a near-regular occurrence. The stones that warned of famine in the 1600s are now warning us about the profound and accelerating impact of human-induced climate change on our most vital ecosystems, such as our great rivers. When these stones reappear today, the reaction from locals and experts is a mixture of awe and deep concern. There is historical fascination, of course, a direct physical link to the lives of people who lived hundreds of years ago. But this fascination is overshadowed by anxiety. Seeing the Deccan stone and its message, "If you see me, then weep," is no longer just a history lesson. It feels like an active and relevant warning. For many, it confirms what scientific data has been telling us for years. Our climate is in a state of crisis, and the consequences are becoming more and more visible in the world around us. The conversation has evolved so much that people are now adding their own modern inscriptions. In 2018, near Magdeburg, Germany, activists added a new message to a historic stone, one that speaks directly to our current predicament. It reads, "When you see me, the climate is in crisis." This act powerfully bridges the gap between the past and the present. It shows that while our ancestors warned of drought and famine, the new generation is warning of the underlying cause. The stones are no longer just messengers of hardship, they have become symbols of a global environmental emergency that demands our immediate attention. The enduring power of the hunger stones lies in their simplicity and their authenticity. These are not grand monuments built by kings or emperors. They are humble, heartfelt messages from ordinary people who faced extraordinary circumstances. Their warnings are written in the common languages of their time and place, German, Czech and other local dialects. This is a crucial point. There is no connection to distant traditions like Ayurveda, nor is any complex AI translation needed to decipher their meaning. The message, "If you see me, then weep," is as clear and powerful today as it was 400 years ago, a universal expression of fear in the face of environmental collapse. These stones are invaluable for understanding our past. They are, in essence, a climate record written in stone, providing hydrologists and historians with precise data on droughts that occurred long before official records began. Research has confirmed that the markings are remarkably accurate, allowing us to build a more complete picture of Europe's climatic history. They remind us that severe droughts are not a new phenomenon. However, the frequency with which we see them now suggests that the natural cycles of the past are being dangerously amplified, pushing our environment into uncharted and perilous territory. Today, the hunger stones serve a dual purpose. They are a window into the hardships of medieval and early modern Europe, but they are also a powerful symbol for the climate crisis of the 21st century. They force us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Our ancestors, with far simpler technology, understood the profound connection between the river and their survival. They knew that a drying river meant disaster. In our modern world, we are often disconnected from these natural indicators, yet the stones are re-emerging to remind us of this fundamental dependency. They are a tangible, visceral warning that we ignore at our own peril. Ultimately, the hunger stones ask a profound question of us. Their creators looked to the future and tried to warn us. Now that the future is here and their warnings are once again visible, how will we respond? These stones are more than just historical artifacts. They are a call to action. They connect us to the struggles of our ancestors and urge us to protect the natural systems that sustain us all. The stones teach us that the health of our rivers is a reflection of the health of our world, and their re-emergence is a clear signal that we must act decisively to ensure future generations do not have to carve new warnings of their own. Today in 2025, parts of Europe that continue to have drought-like conditions continue to find hunger stones in empty lakes, rivers and streams. Like and subscribe to The Energy is all channel for more.